After a family dinner, my daughter-in-law left her phone charging in my kitchen. It vibrated with a new message, a photo of my late son sleeping in a bed, taken last night. Then another message appeared, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. The phone vibrated against my kitchen counter like a rattlesnake's warning. I was wiping down the marble surface, still warm from the dinner dishes, when the sound made me freeze. My daughter-in-law Jennifer's phone, sleek, black, expensive, sat plugged into the outlet by the coffee maker, forgotten in her hurry to leave. She'd rushed out 20 minutes ago with my son Dennis and the grandchildren, citing an early morning meeting. Always an early morning meeting with Jennifer. The screen lit up with a notification. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. 69 years of life has taught me about privacy and boundaries. But something made me glance down, just for a second. What I saw stopped my heart. It was a photograph. A man sleeping in a bed, his face turned toward the camera, peaceful in the dim light filtering through unfamiliar curtains. Dark hair, the curve of his jaw, the way his hand rested on the pillow. It was my son Thomas. My Thomas, who had been dead for 3 years. I stood there, dish towel still in my hand, staring at that screen as my kitchen tilted around me. The phone vibrated again. Another message appeared beneath the photo. Last night was perfect. When can I see you again? My legs gave out. I sat down hard on one of the kitchen chairs. The same chairs where my boys used to sit for breakfast before school, fighting over the last piece of bacon. Thomas and Dennis, so different, always competing. And now Thomas was gone, killed in a car accident on Route 40 3 years ago this November. Except he wasn't gone. Not if that photo was real. Not if it was taken last night. I picked up the phone with shaking hands. My fingerprint wouldn't unlock it, of course, but I could see the message preview. The sender's name was just D. No profile picture, no last name, just a single letter holding a universe of impossible questions. I set the phone down and walked to my living room, to the mantel where Thomas's photograph sat in its silver frame. The memorial service photo, him smiling in his police uniform, proud, strong, alive, dead at 34, or so I'd been told. I'd identified his body. I remembered that, don't I? The memories felt suddenly slippery, like trying to hold water in my hands. The hospital, the white sheet, Dennis there beside me, his hand on my shoulder. Mom, you don't have to look. I've already confirmed it. Let me spare you this. But I had looked, hadn't I? I walked back to the kitchen. The phone screen had gone dark. I stood over it, watching my reflection in the black glass. An old woman, silver hair pulled back, lines around her eyes that mapped every joy and sorrow of nearly 7 decades. When had I become this person? When had my hands become my mother's hands? The phone vibrated again. I jumped. I miss you already? Tonight at the usual place? My mind raced. Jennifer, my daughter-in-law of 12 years, mother of my 2 grandchildren, had a phone full of messages from someone using my dead son's photo. But why? What kind of sick game was this? Unless it wasn't a game. I thought about Dennis. My surviving son, 40 years old, always in Thomas's shadow even now. He'd been devastated by his brother's death. Or had he? I replayed the funeral in my mind. Dennis giving the eulogy, voice breaking. Jennifer beside him, tissues in hand, comforting the children. Everyone playing their parts perfectly. Too perfectly? I picked up my own phone and opened my photo library. I scrolled back 3 years to the weeks after Thomas died. The funeral, the wake, the empty, terrible days that followed. I found a photo someone had taken at the service. Dennis and Jennifer, heads bowed, grief etched on their faces. But now, studying it with new eyes, I noticed Jennifer's hand on Dennis's shoulder. Possessive? Almost triumphant? No. I was being paranoid. Grief does strange things to people, to families. Jennifer's phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. Dee was calling. My hand hovered over it. If I answered, what would I hear? A voice from the grave? An explanation? More lies? The ringing stopped. A voicemail notification appeared. I couldn't access it. I couldn't unlock the phone, but I could do something else. I went to my husband's study. Gerald's study, though he'd been gone 5 years now from a heart attack. A real death with doctors and certificates and no mystery. His old desktop computer still sat on the oak desk, dusty but functional. I used it sometimes for email, for researching recipes, for ordering books. Now I used it to search for something else. I typed carefully, fake death certificate Illinois. Then, staged car accident. Then, with trembling fingers, how to fake your own death. The results were horrifying and illuminating. Apparently, it happened more often than I'd imagined. People fleeing debt, escaping marriages, running from the law. There were forums, guides, even services that claimed to help. All illegal, of course. All requiring accomplices, family members sometimes. I printed out several articles and folded them into my cardigan pocket. Then I cleared the browser history, something my granddaughter had taught me to do, ironically, to keep my passwords safe. When I returned to the kitchen, Jennifer's phone screen was dark again. I stared at it, this small rectangle of glass and metal that held answers I couldn't reach. Then I heard tires on gravel, a car in my driveway. I rushed to the window. Dennis's BMW. He was back already. Panic flooded through me. I grabbed the phone and ran to the powder room, locking the door just as I heard the front door open. "Mom?" Dennis called out. "Mom?" Jennifer left her phone. "We're just grabbing it real quick." "In the kitchen," I called back, my voice surprisingly steady. "I'm just in the bathroom. Be out in a minute." I heard footsteps, then Dennis's voice again, this time tense. "It's not here. Check the counter by the coffee maker," I said through the door. "I am. It's not." A pause. "Jennifer, are you sure you left it here?" I could hear Jennifer's voice now too, higher pitched, anxious. It was charging right there. I remember unplugging it from the car charger and bringing it in. My mind worked fast. I flushed the toilet, ran the water, taking my time. The phone was in my cardigan pocket now, on silent. What was I doing? This was theft. This was crazy. This was necessary. I opened the door and walked out, trying to look confused. "What's wrong?" "Jennifer's phone," Dennis said. His eyes were hard, searching. He'd inherited his father's height, but Thomas's intensity. "She left it here. Did you see it?" "Oh." I made my face brighten. Yes, it was on the counter. The screen lit up with a message, so I knew someone had left it. But then I came in here and I walked to the kitchen, pretending to search. That's so strange. It was right here. Jennifer pushed past me, her perfectly manicured hands checking every surface, opening drawers. "It has to be here. It was charging." "Maybe one of the kids grabbed it?" I suggested. "Edith is always playing with phones." "They're in the car," Dennis said flatly. His eyes hadn't left my face. "Mom, this is important. That phone has Jennifer's whole life on it. Work contacts, banking apps, everything." "Well, I haven't seen it since I noticed it on the counter," I said, meeting his gaze. Lying to my son. When had I become someone who could lie so smoothly? Jennifer was nearly frantic now, checking under the table, behind the toaster. "This doesn't make sense. Phones don't just disappear." "Unless someone took it," Dennis said quietly, still watching me. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I felt the phone's weight in my pocket, heavy as sin. "Dennis!" Jennifer's voice was sharp. "Your mother wouldn't—" "Why would she—" But she didn't finish. Because even she could imagine a reason, couldn't she? Even she knew there were secrets in that phone worth taking. "I'll call it," Dennis said, pulling out his own phone. My blood went cold. If it rang, if they heard it. "Wait," Jennifer said quickly, grabbing his hand. "Don't. I mean, the battery was almost dead. That's why I was charging it. It's probably off by now." Dennis looked at her, really looked at her. And in that moment, I saw something pass between them. Some silent communication. Some shared knowledge. "Fine," he said slowly. "We'll retrace your steps. Maybe you left it in the car after all and just thought you brought it in." "Maybe," Jennifer said, but her voice was hollow. They left, Jennifer casting one last desperate look around my kitchen. Through the window, I watched them search the BMW, Jennifer's movements jerky with panic. Dennis stood with his arms crossed, his face unreadable. Finally, they drove away. I waited until the sound of the engine faded completely. Then I pulled the phone from my pocket and stared at it. The screen lit up at my touch. Another message from D. Did you get my voicemail? I need to talk about this weekend. We have to be more careful. M is getting suspicious. Monsieur Dennis. My son knew. My son was suspicious of someone. But suspicious of what? Of whom? I sat down at my kitchen table as the sunset turned my windows orange and gold. Somewhere out there, someone was using my dead son's photo. Someone named D, who met with Jennifer at the usual place. Someone who had to be careful because Dennis was getting suspicious. And I had stolen my daughter-in-law's phone to find out why. The old Marlene, the proper widow who served pot roast and kept family peace at all costs, would have been horrified at what I'd done. But that Marlene had just seen a photo of her dead son, taken last night. And this new Marlene, the one I was becoming in real time, needed answers. Even if those answers destroyed everything I thought I knew about my family. The phone buzzed again in my hand. Another message. But this time, as I looked down, what I saw made the breath leave my body in a rush. It was a photograph of a document, a death certificate. Thomas Michael Baker. Date of death, November 14th, 2022. Cause, blunt force trauma from vehicular accident. And beneath it, a message from D. Don't worry. No one will ever know the truth. I didn't sleep that night. Jennifer's phone sat on my nightstand, plugged into my charger, the screen facing down like a guilty secret. Every hour, it vibrated with new messages from D. I didn't look at them. I couldn't. Not yet. First, I needed to think clearly, to plan. At dawn, I made coffee and sat at Gerald's desk again. The death certificate image haunted me. I'd zoomed in on it, studying every detail. It looked official. Cook County seal, medical examiner's signature, case number. Noting the body had been transferred from the Route 40 crash site to Chicago jurisdiction. No one will ever know the truth. What truth? That the certificate was real? Or that it was fake? I opened my laptop and began researching. By the time the sun fully rose, I'd learned that death certificates could be obtained through county offices, that they were matters of public record, and that, yes, they could be forged. I'd also learned that staging a death required not just paperwork, but bodies. Misidentification, bribes, a whole conspiracy. The kind of conspiracy that required family involvement. At 8 o'clock, my own phone rang. Dennis. Mom, have you seen Jennifer's phone? His voice was strained. No, honey, I told you last night. I know what you told us. He cut me off, something he never did. But Mom, this is serious. Jennifer needs that phone, for work. She has client information on there that's confidential. Can't she just get a new phone? Transfer everything? It's not that simple. A pause. Can I come by? We need to talk. My stomach tightened. Of course. When? I'm outside. I walked to the window. His BMW sat in my driveway, engine running. He'd called me from my own driveway, not even giving me the courtesy of knocking first. This was an ambush. I grabbed Jennifer's phone and ran upstairs to my bedroom, shoving it deep into my underwear drawer beneath layers of cotton and lace that I knew my son would never search. Then I took a breath, smoothed my hair, and went to answer the door. Dennis stood on my porch, still in his suit from work. Had he even gone home? His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw tight. Come in, I said, stepping aside. He walked past me into the living room, his movements sharp, agitated. Mom, I need you to be honest with me. Did you take Jennifer's phone? Dennis! I let shock color my voice. Why would I do that? I don't know. That's what I'm asking. He turned to face me, and I saw something in his expression I'd never seen before. Suspicion. Directed at me, his mother. I told you what happened. It was on the counter, and then it wasn't. Maybe someone came to the door while I was in the bathroom. The milkman, or... Mom, we don't have a milkman. No one does anymore. He rubbed his face, exhausted. Look, I know you've been under stress. The anniversary of Thomas's death is coming up. Maybe you're confused, or... I'm not confused, Dennis. I kept my voice level, but something in me bristled. I'm 69, not 99. My mind is perfectly clear. Then where's the phone? We stared at each other. My son, my baby boy, now a grown man accusing me of theft in my own home. When had we become adversaries? I don't know, I said quietly. But I don't appreciate being interrogated in my own living room. His expression softened slightly. I'm sorry. Jennifer is freaking out. And there were some things on that phone that... He stopped. What things? Nothing. Just work things. Sensitive information. Like messages from someone named D? I don't know what made me say it. The words just came out, sharp as broken glass. Dennis went very still. What did you say? I saw a message preview, before the phone disappeared. Someone named D was texting her. His face changed. Closed off. Mom, you shouldn't look at other people's messages. It popped up. I couldn't help seeing it. I watched him carefully. Who's D? I have no idea. But he was lying. I could tell. Mothers always know. Look, I need to go. If you find the phone, I'll call you immediately. I finished. After he left, I stood at the window watching his car disappear down the tree-lined street. Then I ran back upstairs and pulled out Jennifer's phone. 12 new messages from D. I needed to unlock this phone. I tried the obvious things first. 00, 1234, Jennifer's birthday, the kids' birthdays. Nothing worked. After 3 attempts, a warning appeared. Too many failed attempts. I needed help. Technical help. But who could I trust? The answer came to me at lunch. My granddaughter Edith, 12 years old, and already more tech-savvy than anyone I knew. She was always helping me with my phone, teaching me shortcuts and features I didn't know existed. But I couldn't just ask her to hack her mother's phone. Could I? I called Dennis's house, hoping Jennifer would be at work. Dennis answered. It's Mom. I was wondering if Edith might want to come spend the afternoon with Grandma. I'm making cookies and I thought, not today, Mom. We're all staying close to home. Jennifer's getting a new phone set up and it's complicated. Well, maybe this weekend? Maybe. He hung up before I could respond. They were keeping Edith away from me. They'd never done that before. I sat in my kitchen, surrounded by the silence of an empty house, and felt the weight of my isolation. If I couldn't trust my own family, who could I trust? Then I remembered. Thomas's partner. Detective Ray Sullivan had worked with my son for years. He'd been devastated at the funeral, had promised to stay in touch. But after a few months, the calls stopped, the visits ended. Life moved on. Except maybe it hadn't. I found his number in my old address book, the paper kind I'd kept for decades, filled with Gerald's handwriting mixed with mine. I dialed before I could talk myself out of it. Sullivan. His voice was gruff, tired. Detective Sullivan, this is Marlene Baker, Thomas Baker's mother. A long pause. Mrs. Baker. It's been a while. Yes. I'm sorry I haven't called. I stopped, unsure how to begin. I need to ask you something about Thomas's accident. Another pause, longer this time. What about it? The body, the identification. Who confirmed it was Thomas? Silence on the other end. Then, Mrs. Baker, why are you asking about this now? Please, I need to know. I heard him sigh. His brother identified him. Dennis. The injuries were extensive, so we needed next of kin confirmation. Dennis said it was definitely Thomas. Why? Were there dental records? DNA? Mrs. Baker, please, Ray, just tell me. There was a fire after the crash. The medical examiner used what was available. But with Dennis's positive ID and Thomas's belongings at the scene, his badge, his wallet, there was no reason to question it. My hands were shaking. So no DNA test? Mrs. Baker, what's going on? Has someone been telling you stories? Because grief does things to people. And there are some sick individuals out there who... No one's told me anything. I need to be sure. That's all. I was at the scene. I saw the car. No one could have survived that crash. I'm sorry, but your son is gone. After I hung up, I sat staring at the phone in my hand. Ray had been at the scene. He'd seen the car. But he hadn't seen Thomas's face, not really. Dennis had done that. Dennis had identified the body. Dennis, who was now married to a woman receiving mysterious messages from someone using Thomas's photo. I needed proof. Real proof. And I knew where to find it. The Cook County Medical Examiner's office. They'd have records, autopsy reports, photographs, things that couldn't be faked or manipulated by a grieving brother. But I couldn't just walk in and demand to see my son's death records. Could I? I spent the afternoon researching. Illinois law allowed next of kin to request copies of medical examiner reports. I was next of kin. Thomas's mother. I had rights. I drafted a formal request letter, printed it on my nice stationery, and prepared to mail it. Then Jennifer's phone buzzed in my pocket, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. I pulled it out. Not a message this time, a notification. Dee was sharing their location. My hands trembled as I tapped the notification, hoping it would show me something, anything, without needing to unlock the phone. It did. A map appeared. A pin dropped on a location in downtown Chicago. A hotel. The Sinclair Arms. An upscale boutique place I'd heard about but never visited. And beneath the pin, a message preview. Room 412. I'll be waiting. I grabbed my purse, my car keys, my phone. I was moving on instinct now, beyond thought, beyond fear. If Thomas was alive, if this was real, I would find him. I was backing out of my driveway when another car pulled in, blocking me. A police cruiser. My heart stopped. A uniformed officer got out. Young, official, his expression neutral. Mrs. Marlene Baker? Yes? I need to ask you a few questions about a stolen phone. Dennis had called the police. My own son had reported me to the police. The officer approached my window. Ma'am, there's been a report that you may have taken property belonging to Jennifer Baker. A cell phone. Is that correct? No, officer, that's not... Ma'am, do you mind if I come inside? We can discuss this more comfortably. It wasn't a request. It was a command wrapped in courtesy. I looked at the hotel address on Jennifer's phone, still glowing in my hand. Room 412. Someone, maybe Thomas, maybe Dee, maybe the key to everything, was waiting there right now. And I was trapped in my driveway, about to be searched by police. Of course, I said, forcing a smile. Please, come in. As I led the officer toward my house, I texted the only person I could think of, Ray Sullivan. Just 3 words. I need help. Then I slipped both phones into my cardigan pockets and prayed he would understand. The officer sat in my living room, notebook open, pen poised. He was young, younger than Thomas would have been. The thought sent a sharp pain through my chest. Mrs. Baker, your daughter-in-law Jennifer states that she left her phone charging in your kitchen last evening. Can you confirm that? I saw a phone on the counter. Yes. I kept my voice steady. Years of church committees and PTA meetings had taught me how to stay calm under scrutiny. And where is that phone now? I have no idea, officer. As I told my son, it was there when I went to the bathroom and gone when I came back out. He wrote something down. Was anyone else in the house? No. Just me. Any visitors? Deliveries? Repair people? No. He looked up, studying my face. Mrs. Baker, do you mind if I look around? Just to rule out any possibility that the phone might have been misplaced? Every instinct screamed at me to refuse, but refusing would make me look guilty, and guilty people don't let police search their homes. Of course not, I said, though I have to say I'm hurt that my own family thinks I would steal from them. Something flickered in his expression. Sympathy, maybe. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding, ma'am. These things usually are. He searched methodically. The kitchen, the living room, even Gerald's study. I followed him, my heart pounding so hard I was certain he could hear it. Jennifer's phone felt like a burning coal in my pocket. When he started toward the stairs, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out. A text from Ray Sullivan. What's wrong? Where are you? I typed quickly while the officer's back was turned. Home. Police searching for Jennifer's phone. Need you. Ma'am, I'd like to check upstairs if you don't mind. Of course. I gestured for him to go ahead, following behind, frantically trying to remember. Had I closed the drawer completely? Would he search that thoroughly? He checked the guest room first, then the bathroom. Finally, he stood at the door of my bedroom. This is your room? Yes. He walked in, his eyes scanning systematically. The bed, neatly made. The dresser with its collection of photos, my wedding, the boys' children, grandchildren. my nightstand with its stack of mystery novels. He moved toward the dresser. My phone buzzed again. This time, louder. The officer turned. "Sorry," I said, glancing at the screen. Ray again. "On my way. Don't say anything without me there." "Is everything all right, Mrs. Baker?" "Fine. Just a friend checking in." He pulled open the top dresser drawer. My scarves, neatly folded. He moved to the second drawer. Sweaters. Then his hand reached for the third drawer. The doorbell rang. We both froze. The officer looked at me. Expecting someone? No. But I prayed it was Ray. I went downstairs, the officer following. Through the frosted glass of my front door, I could see a tall figure. I opened it. Ray Sullivan stood on my porch, still in his detective's shield clipped to his belt, his expression grim. Behind him stood another officer, older, with captain's bars. "Marlene," Ray said, his voice formal. "This is Captain Morris. We need to talk." The young officer appeared behind me. "Detective Sullivan? What are you doing here?" "Mrs. Baker contacted me," Ray said. "She's a family friend. Given the sensitive nature of this situation, Captain Morris and I thought it best to handle this personally." The young officer looked confused, but stepped aside as Ray and the captain entered. In my living room, the power dynamic shifted immediately. The captain looked at the young officer. "Officer Beck, you can return to patrol. We'll take it from here." "But sir, I was instructed by Dennis Baker to—" "I understand. But Detective Sullivan has a prior relationship with the family. We'll handle this." It wasn't a suggestion. After Officer Beck left, reluctantly, Captain Morris turned to me. "Mrs. Baker, I'm going to be direct. Your son Dennis filed a report about a stolen phone. But Detective Sullivan has brought some concerns to my attention. May we sit?" I nodded, sinking into Gerald's old armchair. Ray sat across from me, his expression unreadable. Captain Morris remained standing. "Detective Sullivan tells me you've been asking questions about your late son's death. Questions about the identification process." "Yes." My voice came out as a whisper. "Why now? After 3 years?" I looked at Ray. Could I trust him? Could I trust anyone? But I was out of options. They would search the house thoroughly if I didn't cooperate. They would find the phone. And then I'd have no leverage, no way to discover the truth. "Because I saw a photo," I said quietly. "A photo of Thomas. Taken recently." The captain's eyebrows rose. "Recently? Mrs. Baker?" "On Jennifer's phone. That's why I took it. Not to steal it, but because I saw messages that suggested—" I stopped, hearing how insane it sounded. That suggested Thomas might be alive. Silence filled the room. Ray and the captain exchanged glances. "Mrs. Baker," the captain said gently, "grief can make us see things that aren't there. Your daughter-in-law probably has old photos of Thomas on her phone, and you misread. It was time-stamped. Last night. And there were messages about meeting someone, about being careful because M is getting suspicious." I looked at Ray directly. "M. Dennis." Ray's expression changed, hardened. "Show me." I pulled Jennifer's phone from my pocket. Both men stared at it. "You do have it," the captain said. "Yes, and I'm not giving it back until someone looks at these messages, until someone explains to me why my daughter-in-law is getting photos of my dead son." Ray held out his hand. "Let me see. It's locked. I can't get into it." "I can." Ray took the phone, pulled out a small device from his pocket, something technical I didn't recognize, and connected it. Within seconds, the phone unlocked. He scrolled through the messages, his face growing darker with each swipe. The captain moved to look over his shoulder. "Jesus Christ," the captain muttered. "What?" I leaned forward. "What does it say?" Ray's jaw was tight. "These messages, they're not about Thomas, Marlene. But the photo? Let me see the photo," the captain said. Ray handed him the phone. The captain studied the screen, then looked at me. "Mrs. Baker, this isn't your son Thomas." "What? But I saw—" "This is Derek Baker," Ray said quietly. "Your nephew, Thomas's cousin." The room tilted. Derek, Harold's son, my late brother-in-law's boy, who I'd barely seen since Harold's funeral 3 years ago. Derek, who had the Baker features, the same dark hair, the same jawline, the same face as Thomas. Give or take a few years and some different angles. Derek and Jennifer are having an affair, Ray said bluntly. These messages make that clear. They've been meeting at hotels downtown. The Sinclair Arms, among others. I couldn't breathe. But the messages about being careful, about M getting suspicious. Dennis is getting suspicious about the affair, the captain said. Not about Thomas being alive. Because Thomas isn't alive, Mrs. Baker. I'm sorry, but he's not. All the air left my lungs. The hope I'd been carrying, the terrible, impossible hope, collapsed. But the death certificate, I whispered. There was a message about the death certificate, about no one knowing the truth. Ray scrolled further back in the messages, found something. His expression changed again, this time to anger. Here, this is what you saw. He showed me the screen. The death certificate photo was there, but now I could see the full conversation around it. Derek. Found this in my dad's old papers. Did you know Uncle Thomas and my dad were both born on the same day? Different years, but same month and day. Weird coincidence. Jennifer. Why do you have Thomas's death certificate? Derek. Long story. Dad kept all the family records. There's other stuff too. About the accident. Jennifer. What kind of stuff? Derek. Doesn't matter. Don't worry. No one will ever know the truth. What truth? I asked. If Thomas is really dead, what truth is Derek talking about? Ray and the captain exchanged another look. This time, Ray's expression was grave. Marlene, Ray said slowly. There's something we didn't tell you about Thomas's death. Something Dennis specifically asked us to keep quiet. My heart stopped. What? Thomas's car accident. It wasn't entirely an accident. There was another vehicle involved. A black truck that forced him off the road. We investigated it as a possible homicide. The word hung in the air like poison. Homicide. But Dennis said, he told me it was just an accident. Loss of control on a wet road. That's what Dennis wanted the family to believe. To spare you the trauma of knowing someone might have killed Thomas deliberately. Did you find the truck? The driver? Ray shook his head. No witnesses. No cameras on that stretch of Route 40. The investigation went cold. Then Derek's message, about the truth, could mean that he knows something about Thomas's death, Ray finished. Something he found in his father's papers. The captain pulled out his phone. We need to bring Derek Baker in for questioning. And Jennifer, Ray added. She's clearly involved in this somehow. But Dennis, I said. Dennis called the police on me. Dennis told me Thomas's death was an accident. Dennis identified the body without DNA confirmation. The pieces were clicking together in my mind, forming a picture I didn't want to see. What if Dennis didn't just identify the body? I said slowly. What if Dennis knew there would be no DNA test? What if Dennis... Mrs. Baker, the captain interrupted, his voice sharp. Be very careful about what you're suggesting. My son might have killed his brother, I said, the words coming out flat. Dead. And now Derek knows. And Derek is sleeping with Dennis's wife. Which means Derek might be blackmailing them, Ray finished. Or Jennifer is using Derek to find out what he knows. Or... His phone rang. He answered, listened, his face going pale. When? He said. Where? A pause. We're on our way. He hung up and looked at the captain. Derek Baker was just admitted to Northwestern Memorial. Overdose. They're not sure if he's going to make it. Overdose or attempted murder? The captain asked. Too soon to tell. But Dennis and Jennifer Baker were just seen leaving the hospital. I stood up, my legs shaking. I need to go there. I need to talk to Derek before someone finishes the job, Ray said grimly. Come on, we go together. And Marlene? He fixed me with a hard stare. You don't leave my sight. If your son is involved in Thomas's death and Derek knows about it, then you might be in danger too. Why would Dennis hurt me? I'm his mother. You're also a witness, the captain said. You saw those messages. You know about the affair. And if Dennis thinks you're digging into Thomas's death, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. As we rushed out to Ray's car, Jennifer's phone buzzed one more time in my hand. A message from Dennis. Mom, I know you have Jennifer's phone. I know what you think you saw. We need to talk. Please. Before you do something you'll regret. I showed it to Ray. He read it and swore. He knows we're onto him. This just became a race. We climbed into the car, sirens already starting to wail as the captain called for backup. And all I could think was, my son, my baby boy, what have you done? Northwestern Memorial's emergency entrance blazed with lights. Ray pulled up to the curb, ignoring the no parking signs, his detective's shield giving him immunity from the rules that governed normal people. Normal people. I'd been a normal person 24 hours ago. We rushed through automatic doors into the antiseptic smell of disinfectant and fear. The captain flashed his badge at the reception desk. Derek Baker, overdose admission. What room? The nurse checked her computer, her expression professionally neutral. ICU, 3rd floor. But only immediate family. This is his aunt, Ray interrupted, gesturing to me. It was a lie, sort of. Derek was my nephew by marriage, not blood. But the nurse didn't question it. In the elevator, Ray turned to me. Let me do the talking when we get there. If Derek's conscious, I need to question him officially. But Marlene, his voice softened. If he says something about Dennis, something you don't want to hear, you need to be prepared. I'm prepared, I said, but I wasn't. How could anyone be prepared to learn their child was a murderer? The ICU was a maze of beeping machines and hushed voices. A uniformed officer stood outside room 307. The captain spoke to him briefly, then motioned us forward. Inside, Derek lay motionless, his face gray against white sheets. Tubes ran from his arms, his chest, his mouth. A ventilator breathed for him, the sound mechanical and obscene. A doctor was checking monitors. She looked up as we entered. Family? Police, the captain said. What's his status? Critical. The overdose was severe. Combination of opioids and benzodiazepines. We're doing everything we can, but the next few hours will tell. She glanced at the monitors again. He's sedated now. Even if he wakes, he won't be able to talk with the ventilator. When can we question him? Ray asked. If he stabilizes, maybe 24 to 48 hours. If. She emphasized the last word. Ray turned to the captain. We need to know what he ingested. Where he was found. Apartment in Lincoln Park. The officer outside provided. Anonymous 911 call. Responding paramedics found him on the bathroom floor. Empty pill bottles beside him. Anonymous, Ray repeated. Convenient. I moved closer to Derek's bedside. Even unconscious, even gray and dying, I could see the resemblance to Thomas. The same straight nose, the same broad forehead. How had I mistaken a photo of him for my son? Because I'd wanted to. Because grief makes fools of us all. Did Dennis and Jennifer come here? I asked the officer. We were told they were seen leaving. They were here about 20 minutes ago. Tried to get in to see him, but the doctor wouldn't allow it. Not immediate enough family. They left after making a scene. A scene? The captain asked. The wife, Jennifer, was insistent. Said she needed to see him, that it was urgent. The husband had to physically remove her from the floor. Ray and the captain exchanged glances. We need to find them. Now. Wait, I said. If Derek can't talk, maybe there's something in his apartment. The papers he mentioned. The ones from his father about Thomas's death. The captain considered this. Sullivan, take Mrs. Baker home. I'll coordinate with the team at Derek's apartment. See what they've found. I want to go with you, I said. To the apartment. Those papers. I might recognize something you wouldn't. Family documents. Harold's handwriting. Mrs. Baker, this is now an active criminal investigation. Into my son's death. My other son's potential involvement. I have a right. You have no rights in a police investigation, the captain said, not unkindly. Detective Sullivan will take you home where you'll be safe. I don't want to be safe. I want answers. Ray put a hand on my shoulder. Marlene, please, let us do our jobs. I looked at Derek's unconscious form, at the machines keeping him alive. Whoever had done this, Dennis, Jennifer, or someone else, had tried to silence him, had nearly succeeded. Fine, I said. Take me home. But I was already planning, already thinking. In Ray's car, the city lights blurred past. He drove in silence for several blocks before speaking. You know there might be an innocent explanation for all this. Do you believe that? He didn't answer immediately. No, but I want to. Dennis was Thomas's brother. They had their differences, but brothers don't. He stopped. Don't kill each other? I finished. Tell that to Cain and Abel. This isn't the Bible, Marlene. This is real life. And in real life, we need evidence. Hard evidence. Not suspicions and coincidences. What about Thomas's accident investigation? You said there was a black truck. Did Dennis drive a black truck? Ray's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Dennis drove a black Silverado at the time. But Marlene, so did half the men in Illinois. It wasn't enough to... You suspected him. It wasn't a question. 3 years ago, you suspected my son killed his brother, and you never told me. We had no proof. And Dennis had an alibi. He was at work when Thomas's accident occurred. Multiple witnesses placed him at his office downtown. Alibis can be faked. Witnesses can lie. Not this many. Not this consistently. He glanced at me. Look, we investigated Dennis thoroughly. Bank records, phone records, GPS data from his vehicle. Nothing placed him anywhere near Route 40 that night. Then maybe he hired someone, paid someone to run Thomas off the road. Again, no evidence of any large cash withdrawals, no suspicious transactions, no connections to known criminals. We pulled into my driveway. The house looked dark, empty, waiting. Come inside, I said. Please, just for a few minutes. I need to show you something. Ray hesitated, then nodded. Okay. But then I need to get back to the hospital. Inside, I went straight to Gerald's study and pulled out the articles I'd printed yesterday. The ones about faking deaths, staging accidents, creating false identities. I found these yesterday, I said, spreading them on the desk. Before I knew about Derek, when I still thought Thomas might be alive. But Ray, look at this one. I pointed to an article about insurance fraud. Thomas had a life insurance policy, a big one. $1 million. I know. We investigated that too. The payout went to his estate, which was divided between you and Dennis as his beneficiaries. I never saw that money. Dennis handled everything. He said he put my half in a trust, that it would be there when I needed it. Ray's expression changed. You're saying Dennis kept your portion? I'm saying I don't know. I trusted him to handle it. I was too grief-stricken to think about money. I felt sick saying it out loud. What if that's what this was about? Money? 1 million split 2 ways isn't enough to kill for. Not for someone like Dennis with a good job, a nice house. But Dennis was in debt. I remember now. Right before Thomas died, Dennis came to me asking to borrow money, $50,000. He said it was for a business investment, but he looked desperate. I didn't have that kind of cash. I couldn't help him. Ray pulled out his phone, typing notes. Did he say what kind of debt? No. He wouldn't tell me. Said he had it under control, not to worry. I sat down heavily. 2 months later, Thomas was dead. And suddenly Dennis's money problems disappeared. He bought the new BMW. Jennifer got her jewelry. They took the kids to Europe. That could have come from his own half of the insurance. Or from stealing mine. Or from something else entirely. I looked at Ray directly. You need to check his financials again. Now. Not 3 years ago when you were investigating the accident. Now, after Derek's overdose. After Derek found those papers suggesting he knew something. Ray was already dialing. Captain, we need a warrant for Dennis Baker's financial records. All accounts, all transactions for the past 3 years. He listened. Yes, I'll explain when I get there. He hung up and looked at me. Stay here. Lock your doors. Don't answer for anyone except me. Understand? Ray, what if Dennis comes here? Call 911 immediately. Don't try to talk to him. Don't try to reason with him. Just call. After he left, I locked every door, checked every window. Then I sat in the dark living room, staring at Thomas's photo on the mantel. Tell me what happened. I whispered to his frozen smile. Tell me who killed you. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop digging, Mom. You don't understand what you're uncovering. Some truths are better left buried. It looked like Dennis's number, but caller ID can be spoofed. But how did he get a new number so quickly? Before I could respond, another text appeared. This time with an attachment. A photo. It was my house. My living room. Taken from outside, through the window, taken right now. I jumped up, heart pounding, and ran to the window. The street was empty. No cars, no figures in the shadows. But someone had been there, was maybe still there. Another text. I know you're working with the police. That was a mistake. The only way to protect yourself now is to stop. Destroy Jennifer's phone. Forget what you saw. If you don't, you'll end up like Derek. A threat. A direct, unmistakable threat against my life. From my own son. I called Ray, my hands shaking so badly I could barely dial. He's here. Dennis is outside my house. He sent me photos. Threats. Get out, right now. Don't grab anything. Just get in your car and drive to the police station. I'm sending units to your location. Ray, I can't. What if he's waiting by the car? What if... Marlene, listen to me. Go out the back door, through the yard. Mrs. Clark next door. She's home, right? Go to her house. I'll meet you there. I grabbed my purse, both phones, and ran to the kitchen. The back door lock stuck. It always stuck. Gerald had meant to fix it, but never had, and I wasted precious seconds wrestling it open. Finally, it gave. I slipped into the backyard, the October night cold against my face. Mrs. Clark's house was dark except for the flicker of a TV in the living room. I ran across the grass, stumbling over Gerald's old garden border. Behind me, I heard my front door open. Someone was inside my house. I reached Mrs. Clark's back door and pounded on it. Mrs. Clark, it's Marlene. Please. The TV went silent. Footsteps inside. The porch light flicked on. Mrs. Clark opened the door, her face confused. Marlene? What's wrong? Please, let me in. Someone's in my house. The police are coming. She pulled me inside, locking the door behind us. Through her kitchen window, we could see my house. A shadow moved past my living room window. Who is that? Mrs. Clark whispered. Before I could answer, the shadow emerged from my front door. In the porch light, I could see him clearly. Dennis. He stood on my porch looking around, his phone in his hand. He was calling someone. Then my phone rang. Mom, Dennis's voice said when I answered. I know you're scared. I know how this looks. But I can explain everything. Just come home. Let's talk. Please. I watched him through the window, pacing my porch, his free hand running through his hair. The gesture was so familiar. He'd done it since childhood when he was anxious. My baby boy. My son. Did you kill Thomas? I asked, my voice breaking. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, it's not that simple, Mom. Not a denial. Not, no, of course not. Just, it's not that simple. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The police are coming, I said. You need to leave. I need to make you understand. Before they get here, before they poison you against me with their theories and suspicions. His voice was urgent, desperate. Thomas wasn't who you thought he was. He wasn't the golden boy, the perfect son. He was into things, Mom. Bad things. What things? I can't tell you over the phone. But Mom, his voice cracked. Everything I did to protect this family. To protect you. The sirens were on my street now. Red and blue lights painted the houses. Dennis looked up, saw the police cars, and ran. He disappeared into the shadows between houses, gone before the officers could even get out of their vehicles. Ray's car screeched to a stop in front of Mrs. Clark's house. He ran to the door and she let him in. Are you okay? He asked, his hands on my shoulders, checking me for injuries. I'm fine. But Dennis, he was here. He ran when he saw the police. Which direction? I pointed. Officers were already fanning out, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Ray's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face going pale. When? He asked. Then, Jesus. Okay, lock it down. No one in or out. He hung up and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. What? I asked. What happened? Derek Baker died 10 minutes ago. Someone tampered with his IV line, introduced air into his bloodstream. The hospital is in lockdown. And Marlene? He paused. Jennifer Baker is missing. She was last seen entering Derek's room right before the alarm went off. They took me to the police station. Not as a suspect, not officially. but for my protection. I sat in an interview room with bad coffee and fluorescent lights that made everyone look like corpses, waiting while Ray and the captain coordinated the manhunt for Dennis and Jennifer. But I wasn't waiting passively. While they worked, I worked too. Jennifer's phone sat in an evidence bag on the table. My phone sat beside it, still receiving Dennis's calls. 7 in the last hour, all unanswered. But there was a third phone. One I'd taken from Gerald's study drawer before Ray picked me up. Gerald's old phone. The one I'd kept charged all these years because it had photos and videos of the boys growing up. Memories I couldn't bear to delete, including messages. Years of messages between Gerald and our sons. I scrolled back 3 years, to the weeks before Thomas died. My hands shook as I read. Thomas to Gerald. Dad, I need to talk to you about Dennis. Something's not right. Gerald to Thomas. What do you mean? Thomas. His gambling. It's worse than we thought. He's into loan sharks for over $200K. Gerald. Jesus. Does he know you know? Thomas. No, I've been investigating quietly. Dad, some of these people, they're dangerous, connected. If Dennis can't pay, they'll come after him. After Jennifer and the kids. Gerald, we need to tell your mother. Thomas. Not yet. Let me handle it. I'm working on something. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring. Gerald had known. My husband had known Dennis was in trouble, and he'd kept it from me. To protect me? Or because he was planning something? Gerald had died 3 months before Thomas. Heart attack, the doctors said. Sudden, unexpected, but not suspicious for a man his age with his cholesterol levels. But now I wondered. I scrolled further. Found messages from 2 days before Gerald died. Gerald to Thomas. I'm going to pay them, all of it. I'll take it from our retirement fund. Thomas. Dad, that's your and Mom's future. You can't. Gerald. He's my son. I can't let those animals hurt him. But Thomas, promise me something. If anything happens to me, you keep investigating. Find out who these people are. Make sure Dennis never gets involved with them again. Thomas. Nothing's going to happen to you, Dad. Gerald. Promise me. Thomas. I promise. My coffee cup slipped from my hand, splashing across the table. Ray rushed in. Marlene? What's wrong? I couldn't speak. Could only hand him the phone, showing him the messages. He read them, his expression darkening with each line. Then he called the captain. We need to exhume Gerald Baker's body. Now. 2 hours later, I sat across from Dennis's lawyer in a different room. The lawyer, Richard Clark, ironically Mrs. Clark's nephew, had arrived demanding to speak with me. Mrs. Baker, he said, his voice smooth, professional. My client Dennis Baker would like to meet with you. Under controlled circumstances, with police present, to explain his side of events. His side? I laughed, the sound bitter. His side of murdering his brother? His side of possibly murdering his father? His side of threatening his own mother? He never threatened you. Those texts were warnings, trying to protect you from making a terrible mistake. Where is he? He's willing to turn himself in, but only if you agree to hear him out first. Just you, him, and Detective Sullivan. No recording devices. Off the record. Ray, standing behind me, shook his head. Absolutely not. Your client is wanted for questioning in a murder. My client is wanted for questioning, not charged, not arrested. And he has information that will fundamentally change your understanding of Thomas Baker's death. The lawyer leaned forward. Mrs. Baker, your son is trying to protect you. Has been trying for 3 years. But you've forced his hand by involving the police, by taking that phone, by talking to Derek Baker. I never talked to Derek. But you were going to. And that would have been catastrophic. For everyone. He slid a folder across the table. This is what Derek found in his father Harold's papers. What he was using to blackmail Dennis and Jennifer. What got him killed. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside were photographs, bank statements, legal documents, and a letter in Harold's handwriting, dated 1 week before Thomas died. Thomas, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. The same people who are after Dennis are now after me because I refused to help them launder money through my dealership. Your father paid Dennis's debt, but these people don't let go easily. They wanted me to become part of their operation. I refused. Now I'm afraid they'll kill me to send a message. The evidence is in my safe deposit box. Names, transactions, everything you need to bring them down. But be careful. They have people inside the police department. They know about your investigation. Trust no one. Harold. Harold died in a car accident, I whispered. 2 months before Gerald, 2 months before Thomas. 3 staged deaths in 5 months, the lawyer said. 3 Baker men dead. And you think Dennis killed Thomas? The room spun. Then who? Who killed them? The Volkov organization. Russian mob. They control gambling, drugs, prostitution across the Midwest. Gerald paid Dennis's gambling debt to a mid-level operator, not knowing it would draw the attention of the people at the top. Harold refused to help them. They killed him. Gerald got suspicious, started asking questions. They killed him. Made it look like a heart attack. Easy enough with the right chemicals. No, I said. No. Gerald died of natural causes. The doctors never tested for certain poisons because they had no reason to suspect foul play. The lawyer opened another folder. This is the autopsy report Dennis obtained through a private investigator 6 months ago. The levels of potassium in your husband's blood were abnormal, consistent with injection of potassium chloride, which causes immediate cardiac arrest. Ray grabbed the report, scanning it. His face went white. And Thomas? I asked, though I already knew. Was investigating them. Getting close. They forced him off the road. Made it look like an accident. The lawyer's voice softened. Dennis identified the body because he couldn't let you see what they'd done to his brother. The burns from the fire were post-mortem, Mrs. Baker. Thomas died on impact, thank God. But what the Volkovs did to the body after, Dennis spared you that knowledge. Tears streamed down my face. Why didn't he tell me? Why didn't he go to the police? Because Harold's letter was right. The Volkovs have people inside the department. Dennis didn't know who to trust. So he's been investigating alone for 3 years, gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment. And Derek? Ray asked. How does he fit in? Derek found Harold's letter and the evidence. But instead of going to the police, he saw an opportunity. He contacted the Volkovs, offered to sell them the evidence for $2 million. Then he seduced Jennifer to get close to Dennis, to find out how much Dennis knew. I thought of the messages, the affair. Jennifer was working with Derek? No. Jennifer was a victim. Derek manipulated her, made her fall in love with him, used her to spy on Dennis. When Dennis figured it out, he confronted Jennifer last week. She confessed everything, broke it off with Derek. That's when Derek became dangerous. So Dennis killed him, Ray said flatly. No, the Volkovs killed him, because Derek tried to double-cross them. He demanded $4 million instead of $2 million, threatened to go to the FBI if they didn't pay. The lawyer pulled out another photo. This was taken at Derek's apartment building yesterday. Recognize him? The photo showed a tall man with Slavic features entering Derek's building. I didn't recognize him, but Ray did. Sergei Volkov, Ray breathed. We've been trying to nail this bastard for years. Dennis has been tracking him. Has photos, recordings, evidence of 12 murders including your husband, Harold, and Thomas. The lawyer looked at me. Your son isn't a killer, Mrs. Baker. He's been trying to bring down the people who destroyed your family. But he needs your help. My help? The evidence Harold collected is in a safe deposit box. The key was in his papers, the ones Derek found. Derek gave it to Jennifer before he died. Told her it was insurance in case the Volkovs decided he was a liability. Jennifer gave it to Dennis, but they can't access the box. Why not? Because Harold put it in your name. You're the only one who can open it. The room fell silent. This is a trap, Ray said. It has to be. Dennis wants to get close to Marlene, to save his mother's life. The lawyer stood. The Volkovs know about the box now. They know Marlene is the key to accessing it, which means they'll be coming for her. Dennis wants to get to the evidence first, turn it over to the FBI, people he knows aren't compromised, and put these animals away forever. When? I asked. When does Dennis want to do this? Tonight. The bank opens at 9 a.m. But there's a 24-hour vault access for premium customers, which you are, as Harold's sister-in-law and named beneficiary. He pulled out an access card. This gets you in. Dennis will meet you there at midnight, 2 hours from now. Ray was already shaking his head. Absolutely not. This violates every protocol. Detective, the lawyer interrupted. In 2 hours, the Volkovs will know where that safe deposit box is. They have people watching banks, watching police stations, watching Mrs. Baker's house. If you try to coordinate this through official channels, if you bring in FBI or SWAT or anyone else, the mole will warn the Volkovs, and they'll be waiting. Then we don't go at all. We put Marlene in protective custody. For how long? The lawyer challenged. Forever? These people are patient. They waited 5 months between killing Harold and killing Gerald. They'll wait years if they have to. And eventually they'll get to her. I thought about my grandchildren, Edith and little James. Would they be next? Would the Volkovs use them to force me to comply? I'll do it, I said. Marlene, no. I'll meet Dennis. We'll get the evidence together, and we'll end this. I looked at Ray. You can't come officially, but you can be there unofficially, watching, ready to move in if something goes wrong. The lawyer smiled. Smart woman. Dennis said you would understand. I understand that my family has been destroyed by these people. I understand that my husband, my brother-in-law, and my son are dead. And I understand that Dennis has been living in hell for 3 years, unable to trust anyone, unable to tell his own mother the truth. I stood up. Where's the bank? First Chicago Trust. Downtown. Dennis will meet you in the vault room. The lawyer handed me the access card and a small device. This is a panic button. If anything feels wrong, if you sense danger, press it. Dennis will have one too. After he left, Ray grabbed my arm. Marlene, this could still be a trap. We don't know for sure that Dennis isn't involved. Yes, we do. I showed him Gerald's phone again, scrolling to a message I'd found. Sent from Thomas to Gerald the day before Thomas died. Thomas. Dennis is clean, Dad. I verified it. He paid his debt. He's been to GA meetings. He's completely out. Whatever happens now, it's not because of his gambling. It's because we uncovered something bigger. If anything happens to me, protect Dennis. And protect Mom. They might come for her too. Ray read it, then read it again. Jesus. My son didn't kill his brother. He's been trying to avenge him. And I'm going to help him finish this. At 11:45 p.m., I stood outside First Chicago Trust. The downtown streets empty except for a few cabs and late-night wanderers. Ray was somewhere in the shadows, watching, waiting. The bank's night entrance glowed with soft light. I swiped the access card. The door clicked open. Inside, the marble floors echoed with my footsteps. A security guard, elderly, bored, barely glanced at me as I signed in and headed to the elevators. The vault room was in the basement, cold, silent. Rows of safe deposit boxes lined the walls like metal coffins. I was alone. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. Dennis stood at the entrance, his face haggard, older than his 40 years. We stared at each other across the space of 3 years and 3 deaths and 1,000 unspoken words. Mom, he said, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry. For everything. I walked to him. And then I did something I hadn't planned. Something that wasn't strategic or smart. I slapped him across the face. The sound echoed through the vault. You let me think you might have killed your brother, I said, my voice shaking with fury. You let me believe, even for a second, that my son was a murderer. Do you have any idea what that did to me? He took the blow, his eyes filling with tears. I had no choice. If I'd told you the truth, you would have been in danger. The less you knew, the safer you were. I'm your mother. You always have a choice to trust me. Dad trusted you. He told you about the finances, about the will, about everything. And look what happened to him. Dennis's voice cracked. They knew. The Volkovs knew Dad was asking questions because someone saw you two talking at the bank, saw him pulling records. They thought he was gathering evidence with your help. So they killed him. The words hit me like bullets. You think they killed Gerald because of me? Because of what you might have known. What he might have told you. Dennis grabbed my shoulders. I couldn't risk that again. I couldn't risk losing you too. So I kept you in the dark. I let you hate me, suspect me, anything to keep you alive. I pulled him into a hug, feeling him collapse against me, sobbing like he hadn't since he was a child. I miss him, Mom. I miss Thomas every day, and Dad, and Uncle Harold. They're all gone because I couldn't stop gambling, couldn't control myself. Stop. I held him tighter. This isn't your fault. You didn't force those monsters to kill anyone. They made that choice. We stayed like that for a moment. A mother and son, broken but still standing. Then Dennis pulled back, wiping his eyes. We need to move. Box 2847. That's Harold's. I found it. Used the key the lawyer had given me. Inside was a thick envelope. Dennis opened it. Inside were documents, photos, ledgers. Years of evidence meticulously compiled by Harold Baker. This is it, Dennis whispered. This can bring them all down. Behind us, someone applauded slowly. We both spun around. A man stood at the vault entrance. Tall, cold-eyed, with a gun in his hand. Sergei Volkov. Very touching, he said in accented English. Mother and son, reunited. But I'm afraid this is where your investigation ends. Dennis stepped in front of me. Let her go. She's not part of this. She's been part of this since her husband paid your debt. Volkov moved closer. Did you really think we wouldn't notice you gathering evidence? Tracking our operations? You're not as smart as your brother was. And look what happened to him. You killed Thomas, I said, my voice steady despite my terror. I gave the order, just like I gave the order for your husband, for Harold. And now, he raised the gun. For you both. Wait. Dennis held up the envelope. This evidence, we'll destroy it. Right now. Just let my mother go. Volkov laughed. You think that's the only copy? Please. Harold was paranoid. There are copies everywhere. Then why are you here? Because you need to understand. No one defies the Volkov family. Your brother tried. Your uncle tried. Your father tried. And they all died. He aimed the gun at Dennis. Now it's your turn. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. But Dennis didn't fall. Volkov did. Ray Sullivan stood behind him, his service weapon still raised, his face grim. Police! Drop the weapon! More officers poured in. FBI agents, I realized, not local police. Ray had brought in people Dennis had vetted, people they knew were clean. As they secured Volkov and called for medical, Ray helped Dennis and me out of the vault. You were recording? Dennis asked, stunned. Ray tapped his chest. Body camera. Everything. His confession to 3 murders. His attempt on your lives. It's all documented. He looked at Dennis. It's over. We've got him. I changed the plan, he added. Once I realized Volkov was coming, I looped in vetted federal agents and went fully on the record. But Dennis was staring at the entrance, his face going pale. Where's Jennifer? She was supposed to wait in the car. We ran outside. Dennis's BMW sat at the curb, engine running. Empty. Dennis's phone buzzed. A video message. On screen, Jennifer sat bound in a chair, terrified, in what looked like a warehouse. A man's voice spoke in Russian, then English. You have something we want. We have something you want. Exchange in 1 hour. Come alone or she dies. The screen went black. Dennis looked at Ray, at me, at the phone. It's not over, he said quietly. It's just beginning. We have to go in, Dennis said, already moving toward his car. They'll kill her. Ray grabbed his arm. That's exactly what they want. They get you, they get your mother, and they get the evidence. 3 for 1. Then what do you suggest? Dennis's voice was raw with desperation. Let my wife die? No. I stepped forward, my mind working through the angles like pieces on a chessboard. We give them what they want, but not the way they expect. Both men looked at me. Explain, Ray said. They want the evidence. They think it's all in that envelope. But it's not, is it? I looked at Dennis. Harold was paranoid. You said there are copies. Dennis nodded slowly. Dad, our dad, has one, had one. It's somewhere in his house. Your house? No, I said. It's not in the house. How do you know? Because I cleaned every inch of that house after your father died. sorted through every document, every file, every book on his shelves. If there was evidence of a criminal conspiracy, I would have found it. I paused. Which means it's somewhere I wouldn't look. Somewhere no one would think to search. Ray was catching on. Where? The cemetery. Gerald's grave. Dennis stared at me. That's impossible. Dad died 5 years ago. Harold died 3 years ago. Harold couldn't have put evidence at Dad's grave. But Gerald could have, I interrupted. Think about it. Harold gave him the evidence before he died. Gerald knew the Volkovs were after him. He needed to hide the information somewhere safe, somewhere only family would think to look. In his own coffin? Ray looked skeptical. That would require... Gerald planned his funeral meticulously, I said. Remember, Dennis? How he insisted on that particular funeral home, that particular plot. How he wanted a specific type of casket with a waterproof seal. I thought he was just being controlling. But what if he was preparing? Dennis pulled out his phone, scrolling frantically. The funeral was handled by Morrison and Sons. Let me check. He tapped through screens. Jesus. Dad prepaid for everything 2 weeks before he died. And he added a special request for a personal item to be placed in the casket. I signed off on it without asking what it was. I thought it was just jewelry or photos. It was evidence, I said. Evidence that's been sitting in his grave for 5 years, waiting for someone to figure it out. Ray was already on his phone. I need an emergency exhumation order for Gerald Baker's grave. Yes, tonight. No, it can't wait. He covered the phone. Marlene, are you sure about this? I thought about Gerald, my husband of 43 years, the man who'd known he was dying, or about to be killed, and had prepared one final move to protect his family. I'm sure. 1 hour later, we stood in the cemetery under portable lights that turned the grave markers into ghostly monuments. A forensics team worked carefully, excavating Gerald's grave while Dennis paced and Ray coordinated with the FBI. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Baker. The voice was Russian, cold. You have 30 minutes to bring the evidence to the warehouse on Fulton Street. Come alone, or your daughter-in-law dies. No police, no FBI. We will be watching. I understand, I said calmly, but I need proof Jennifer is alive. A pause. Then Jennifer's voice, terrified. Marlene, don't. They'll kill you too. The line went dead. Ray grabbed my phone, traced the call. Fulton Street, Warehouse District. They're not even trying to hide. He looked at me. They think you're just an old woman, frightened, compliant. Good, I said. Let them think that. The forensics team called out. We've reached the casket. We gathered around the grave. They opened it carefully, respectfully. Inside, Gerald lay as he had for 5 years, his suit still pressed, his hands folded, and beneath his hands, a sealed metal box. Dennis climbed into the grave, something I never imagined I'd see my son do, and retrieved it. Inside were USB drives, documents, photographs, everything Harold had compiled, and more that Gerald had added. There's enough here to bring down their entire organization, Ray breathed. Not just Volkov, but everyone above him. This is unprecedented. How long to copy it? I asked. 20 minutes, maybe less. Ray pulled out his phone. We don't have 20 minutes, we have... I checked my watch. 17 minutes to get to that warehouse. Marlene, you're not seriously considering... I'm considering saving my daughter-in-law's life. I took the metal box. Copy what you can, but I'm taking the originals. Dennis grabbed my arm. Mom? No, I'll go. It should be me. They're expecting an old woman. Scared, alone, easy to control. I met his eyes. Let me do this. Let me finish what your father started. The warehouse loomed against the night sky, its windows broken, its walls tagged with graffiti. I pulled up in my car, not Dennis's BMW, but my sensible Honda Civic, and got out slowly, making sure they could see I was alone. The metal box was under my arm. My phone was in my pocket, open line to Ray, who was listening 3 blocks away with a tactical team. And in my other pocket, something else. Something I'd taken from Gerald's study years ago and kept, not knowing why. His old police radio from his brief stint as a volunteer officer. Still functional. Still transmitting. I'm here, I called out. I have what you want. Two men emerged from the shadows. Not Volkov, he was in custody, but his associates, young, armed, dangerous. Inside, one said, gesturing with his gun. I walked in, my steps careful on the debris-strewn floor. They led me to a central room where Jennifer sat tied to a chair, her face bruised, her eyes wide with terror. "Marlene," she gasped. "I'm so sorry, I never meant—" Quiet. The man behind her pressed his gun to her head. "You have the evidence?" "I do." I held up the box. "But first, I want to know something. Why Derek? Why did you kill him?" The man laughed. "He was greedy, stupid, thought he could negotiate with us." He spit. "No one negotiates with the Volkov family." "So you murdered him? Made it look like an overdose?" "We're good at making things look like accidents. Like what happened to your husband, your son, your brother-in-law." He smiled. "Now, the box. First, let Jennifer go." "You're not in a position to negotiate, old woman." "Aren't I?" I set the box down. "Because I know something you don't." "What?" "That this entire conversation is being recorded, that the FBI is listening right now, and that you just confessed to 3 murders on tape." I smiled. "Oh, and one more thing." I pressed the panic button in my pocket. The warehouse exploded with sound and light. Flashbangs, shouting. The FBI tactical team poured in from every entrance. The man with the gun tried to aim at Jennifer, but I was faster than he expected. I grabbed the lamp beside me, heavy, metal, from the old workshop area, and swung it hard into his arm. The gun clattered away. Not physical force, exactly. Just an old woman using her environment intelligently. Ray appeared, weapon drawn, taking down the second man. Dennis rushed to Jennifer, cutting her bonds. And I stood there, breathing hard, realizing I'd just done something I never imagined possible. I'd saved my family. 3 months later. The trial was front-page news. Sergei Volkov and 17 members of his organization, including 2 corrupt police officers and a county judge, all facing murder and racketeering charges. The evidence Gerald and Harold had compiled, combined with Volkov's recorded confession and the warehouse confessions, created an airtight case. Dennis sat beside me in the courtroom as they read the verdict. Guilty. On all counts. Jennifer sat on his other side, holding his hand. The affair with Derek, manipulated, coerced, a mistake she would carry forever, had nearly destroyed their marriage. But they were working through it, slowly. Therapy. Honesty. The kind of painful growth that comes from nearly losing everything. "We did it, Mom," Dennis whispered. "Dad and Uncle Harold and Thomas. We got justice for them." "No," I said quietly. "They did it. They gathered the evidence, took the risks, made the sacrifices. We just finished what they started." After the verdict, Ray drove me home. My house stood as it always had, unchanged by the chaos of the past months. Mrs. Clark waved from her porch. The mailman delivered letters. Life went on. Inside, I made tea and sat at the kitchen table where this had all begun. Jennifer's phone, returned from evidence, sat in a drawer now, a reminder of how a single message could unravel everything, or reveal everything. Ray joined me, accepting the tea. "The FBI wants to give you a civilian commendation for your bravery, your assistance in the case." "I don't need a commendation. I need my family safe." "They are. The entire Volkov organization is dismantled. The corruption in the department is being cleaned up. It's really over, Marlene." I looked at him. This man who'd been Thomas's partner, who'd become my unlikely ally. "You suspected Dennis all along, didn't you? That's why you helped me." I suspected someone. I wasn't sure who. Could have been Dennis. Could have been Jennifer. Could have been you. Covering for one of them. He smiled slightly. "Turns out it was none of you. Just a family targeted by monsters. Fighting back the only way you could." After he left, I walked to the mantel. Thomas's photo still sat there, that frozen smile. I picked it up, really looking at it. "You tried to tell me," I said softly. "That last time you visited, when you asked me to keep an eye on Dennis, to make sure he stayed clean, you were protecting him even then. Protecting all of us." I thought about that night at the bank when I'd slapped Dennis. The anger, the betrayal I'd felt. But beneath it, the love that never wavered. That's what mothers do. We love even when we don't understand, even when we're terrified of the truth. My phone buzzed. A text from Edith, my granddaughter. "Grandma, can I come over this weekend? I want to hear the story. The real story. Mom and Dad won't tell me everything." I smiled. 12 years old and already demanding the truth. She was a baker through and through. "Yes," I typed back. "Come over. I'll tell you everything." Because she deserved to know. They all did. The story of how their grandfather, their uncle, their great-uncle had fought against evil and won. How their father had spent 3 years seeking justice without wavering. How their grandmother had discovered that age doesn't mean weakness. It means wisdom, patience, and the kind of strength that comes from surviving 7 decades of life. I walked upstairs to my bedroom and opened the drawer where I'd hidden Jennifer's phone 3 months ago. Beneath where it had been, I pulled out something else. A journal I'd been keeping since Gerald died. For 5 years I'd written in it faithfully. Questions I'd had. Inconsistencies I'd noticed, but dismissed. Things that bothered me, but I couldn't articulate. The way Dennis had been so insistent about identifying Thomas's body alone. The way Jennifer had seemed relieved at Thomas's funeral. Not just grief-stricken. The way Derek had appeared at family gatherings after Harold's death, asking careful questions about what papers his father had left behind. I'd noticed it all. Recorded it all. Not because I suspected anything specific, just because something felt wrong. That journal had helped me piece together the truth faster than anyone expected. It had given me the framework to understand the conspiracy when the evidence emerged. Wisdom isn't just knowing things. It's paying attention. It's trusting your instincts even when you can't explain them. It's keeping records, maintaining awareness, staying sharp even when the world expects you to fade into elderly irrelevance. I'd spent 69 years being underestimated. And that had been my greatest advantage. 6 months after the trial, Dennis and I stood at Gerald's grave. The headstone had been restored after the exhumation, and I'd added something new. Gerald James Baker, beloved husband, father, hero. He protected his family until the end, and beyond. He would have been proud, Dennis said, of what you did, how you figured it out. He counted on it, I said. That's why he left those messages on his phone. Why he prepared so carefully. He knew that if anyone could put the pieces together, it would be me. We stood in silence, watching the sun set over the cemetery. 3 graves in a row now. Harold, Gerald, Thomas, all taken by the same evil, all avenged by the family they left behind. "What now?" Dennis asked. "What do you do after you've solved a conspiracy and taken down a criminal organization?" I smiled. "I go home. I bake cookies for my grandchildren. I plant flowers in the garden. I live my life." "Just like that?" "Just like that." I linked my arm through his. Because that's what they wanted for us. Not to be defined by their deaths, but to be freed by their sacrifice. To live fully, safely, joyfully. We walked back to our cars. Dennis hugged me tight before leaving. "I love you, Mom. And I'm sorry I doubted that you could handle the truth. I'm sorry I doubted you," I said. "But we're past doubts now. We're past secrets. We're family, and we're finally free." Driving home, I thought about the story I would tell Edith this weekend. Not a story of violence or revenge, but of patience and intelligence. Of how you don't need strength to fight evil. You need wisdom. How you don't need weapons. You need awareness. How being underestimated is sometimes the best disguise. My house appeared around the corner, its windows glowing warm in the twilight. Inside, the kitchen where I'd first seen that message waited. The living room where Thomas smiled from his frame. The bedroom where Gerald's memory lived in every familiar object. This house that had almost become a crime scene had instead become a fortress. A place where an old woman had refused to be a victim. Where a mother had demanded truth. Where a widow had honored her husband's final act of courage. I parked in the driveway and sat for a moment, gathering my thoughts. Then I went inside, turned on the lights, and made myself a cup of tea. Tomorrow there would be more to do. Always more to do. But tonight, I would rest, knowing that lived intelligence, careful observation, and patient wisdom had triumphed over arrogance, violence, and brute force. Knowing that my family was safe. Knowing that Gerald's last gift, his trust in me, had been well placed. And knowing that at 69 years old, I was just beginning to understand the power I'd always possessed. The phone buzzed one last time. Ray. Final piece of news. The FBI used your evidence to make 43 additional arrests across 3 states. You didn't just save your family, Marlene. You saved hundreds of lives. Well done. I set the phone down and smiled at Thomas's photo. Well done, all of us, I whispered. And in the quiet of my kitchen, surrounded by memories and hope, I finally felt at peace. Now tell me, what would you have done if you were in my place? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out the video on your screen right now. I'm sure it will surprise you.